everybody? Welcome back to Daily Dirty. I am starting a new series. This one is basically called Motivation. I've been working through my YouTube channel, I've been working on my podcast, the TikTok thing, which I'm going to have a whole thing about that. That's a totally different ball of wax. Just want to kind of give a little quick few things that's been rattling around in the old noggin the past couple of days while my little journey with building a podcast, and share a few things and kind of get some motivational things out there for everybody. And also want to explain some things I learned. I've got a series where I'll talk about, learning how to do a podcast or doing a YouTube, and talking about how trying to keep things raw and unfiltered, and going over some of the things that I've picked up. I rewatch my videos to kind of go through, or, listen to my podcast, and my wife listens to them. My biggest fan, my wife, very good at critiquing me and kind of helping me. So working more on keeping on point. So all of my podcasts and all my YouTubes, I start off with the subject, and then my ADHD kicks in, and then I just go on this rant of something, and somehow I'll kind of end back up on track and back off track. And that's due to ADHD. And I know it's an excuse, but anybody that has ADHD or ADD is trying to focus solely on one thing, and then something kind of pops in your mind, and it's just like, I don't know where this came from, but we're going to talk about it today. So I'm trying to work on that a little bit more to zone in on exactly what I'm talking about. So that's what my new series is about, is it's not trying to perfect, but it's trying to make it better for people to listen to what I'm saying and to keep track, because not everybody's ADHD. Even people with ADHD probably listening to this like, man, this dude's ADHD. I'm trying to keep track, and I've got it. So gonna try to do the best I can with that. This is just gonna be on my podcast series. I'm not gonna put this one on YouTube. I'm trying to work in a different angle there of learning how to make a YouTube video with some various other things. But today I want to talk about motivation and a few things that have helped me with a lot of things in life. And I'm going to try not to make, I always say that, I'm going to try not to make this too long, but it always ends up, I'm long winded. I talk a lot, that's why I kind of, people think, hey, you already do that, man. You talk a lot, right? It's like, you talk a lot, what do you do? So motivation things, I grew up with a lot of hate. I grew up with a lot of negativity in my environment growing up. There was a lot of things that happened that my wife probably knows more about me than anybody that I've ever met or know, except the people that's done what they've done to me. And it's not that it's just so horrible and everybody's like, oh my God, you just had the worst life. It's not that. It's just worse for me. And I talk about journey on a couple other podcasts and things, and I kind of want to step into that a little bit. Journey is, to me, is the path that you take. I've watched a few TikToks, you're in there. Sometimes you just kind of pop on there and you want to see TikTok. I do it for news mainly because I don't like watching the news. I like getting on TikTok because it's kind of quick to the point, and, I can go about my day and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. That kind of goes on, reading through it just takes a lot of time, or I can just hear it's like, oh man, books are great. I love books. I haven't read a lot of books recently in my adult years. It's just, you get really busy in life, and that's an excuse. You should be able to make time to do things that you enjoy. And, I read this thing is like, you can't, go in the restroom and sit there for more than 10 minutes is what the doctor says, so legs numb and shit. But anyway, motivation for me has been a struggle all my life. And we've all kind of gone through depression. There's things that we've gone through in our life that you have this feeling that, what's your purpose? And everybody has that. I don't care who you are. You're going to think that one time or a million times within your life. And I thought about that a little bit when I was going through my videos and wanting to kind of reach out and provide some of those motivational things. It's helped me. It's not like I'm that guy that's walking across the stage, and he's got that little wire microphone. It's like, this is where I was at, and it was just horrible, and I made these changes. So can you buy my book for $10.99? It's none of that shit. Mine is just kind of just letting you in a little bit on me, kind of letting you seep in some of my past issues, some things that I've overcome, some things I'm still struggling with. And it's not one of those videos of like, hey, if you're struggling, this would probably be better for you. No, it's not that. It's personal of what's helped me. And like, you're probably thinking like, well, who really gives a shit? Nobody does. And that's one of the problems. Whether it's work or, friends or whatever that situation is, the biggest thing that I have learned over my 50 years of existence is finding a way to find happiness. You got needs, you got wants, you got reality, you've got pipe dreams. You have all these things when you're a kid and you're trying to process all this. Two things interrupted that process for me. One is my environment. Basically, my mom, I haven't talked to her in years, and people are like, "Oh, I can't believe your mom had you. She bad mouth you don't bad mouth your mom and shit like that." Well, that's probably you. Mine's a totally different situation. She didn't do her job as a mom. She let things happen to us that is horrific. And I'm not going to go in details with that because that's just not the platform for that. Maybe one day I might make a podcast of how, I overcome some of that things I'm still struggling with in my mind about it. But, and a lot of people's probably been there. And a lot of people, they say men don't talk. I've seen, and a lot of stuff I get on TikTok, and it kind of gives me ideas of you look at it and you're just like, okay, that makes sense, right? And I've seen some where they talk about, well, the reason why men don't talk is because nobody cares. Nobody understands the struggle that a man goes through, because then it becomes, oh, you think your gender's worse than mine, or, it gets in this whole jumbled up BS situation that it's just like, just listen and process what this person is saying. Quit, quit judging so quickly or assuming so quickly. Process exactly what this person is saying. It's like listening to a song. Back in the day, we listened to music, and this was like in the early 70s, late 80s, and 90s. Music got us through so much stuff back then. It was like, it was your escape. For me, it was music, and it was also books because I read so many books, so many things. And it wasn't like reality stuff, it was stuff that was taking me out of my realm. There's books of like mystic things that doesn't exist that we know of, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist, right? But I didn't like reading books of stuff that's just happening now. It's like I'm living this. I'm living life now. I want something that's gonna pull me out of my reality into something that is a safe spot for me. So when Christmas and birthdays and stuff came around, you didn't ask for anything in my household unless you were my brother, which was the oldest. He of course got everything, which I don't really care because I'm not materialistic like that. Maybe that helped me out. I asked for books. We'd go to somewhere like I don't even know if they still exist, a 50% off bookstore, and I see some of the cool cover, and I flip it to the back and kind of see what it's a little bit about. On the back cover, oh, I like the art on this. I kind of like what this sounds like. It's like dragons and shit, right? And it's like, we don't have any dragons. Maybe this will take me out. And that's how it started for me. I got into a lot of books that were very unrealistic, and my mind would transfer over to that. Like I felt like I was there. And in psychology, they talk about how children and people create this safe space in their mind. Not everybody is able to do that, or they have a different coping mechanism. But mine, that was my safe place. My mom and stepdad was very abusive, mentally, physically, and other things, right? And we've all had some sort of that. I mean, especially, I guess, I don't know if it's the generational of where we grew up or if it's just not looked at upon. CPS was different back then than it is now. You know, the government wasn't all on your shit like they are now. And I'm not going to get into politics and all that crap because, you know. So growing up was very dark. Now, the interesting thing is, I never had thoughts of suicide or depression or any of that whenever I was a kid. I don't have that now. I had one moment in my life where I was there. And I'll talk about that here in a minute. So you look at your childhood, you look at everything that went on in your environment, and as you get older and your brain develops more, and you start understanding adulting and how things are and how other people's kids, and you just look at so many different parameters about your childhood when you get older. And man, I hated my stepdad. He was just an evil man. But the thing is out of that, and my mom, she's just the same way. She's just very. I can't even put a finger on what's wrong with that lady. The things that she allowed to happen, it should be like a Lifetime story, on one of them shows. I wouldn't say Hallmark because it was dark. There's just things that are just unspeakable. And the problem is I blocked it for so long. My wife actually helped me pull some of those things out of my mind that I totally forgot about. They were just blocked. That were that I filed away somewhere in my mind. So as far as motivation, we didn't really have that. My mom had kids at a very young age. I think she was like 13 years old when she had her first child. And that's an older brother that we have that I've met twice, and that dude's just he's got all kinds of issues. I'm not saying I don't, but he's definitely got way more issues than I got. And I have an older brother and an older sister. I'm the youngest one. I've never met my dad. I talked to him like once or twice. He died like 10, 15 years ago. I found out that I had this whole other family in Florida. That's actually where I was born, but I've been in Texas since I was like two. And there's just so much mystery behind that. And for a while, you're just intrigued, and it's like the first time I talked to my dad, my real dad, he asked me for money. And I think I was like 20 at the time. No, yeah, I was like 20 at the time. And I was like, well, where the fuck were you the past 18 years? And you're asking me for money? I mean, like, I owe you money? I mean, it's like, where am I supposed to find this money? I'm just going to give you money because, hey, I'm your dad. So, do you have any money you can give me? You kiss my motherfucking ass. So, I was trying not to cuss, but some of this shit upsets me. But beyond that, I couldn't understand half the shit he was saying. I mean, he's backwoods, freaking. Man, if you ever seen Waterboy and you had that one guy that was on there and he was like, that's pretty much how he talked. So, my half sister, she had to jump in there and kind of give me a little bit of a translation there. She's actually, I let her know that I'm doing podcasts and stuff like that. So I don't, I'm not trying to be offensive or anything like that. I didn't grow up with the guy. You know, I get stuff here and there. I got like two sides of the story of what happened, the kind of man he was, and everything. But I don't want to get into him because you know I don't really know much about that. Just about what I hear, and I wasn't there, and I'm not going to take other people's opinions and try to create some kind of persona of who he was. I believe he did what he could for the kids he had over there. You know, my mom didn't. And I'm not saying it's unfair to them or unfair to me or anything like that, but she was just a hateful person. She blamed me being born of why her life sucked. And me, I mean, I'm just that kind of person. And you grow up with that dark energy is what I call it now. It's just so dark. It's just like, man, let me check something real quick. I don't think I went and say, hey, lady, won't you have me? You know, now if it was like if you got raped and then I came out, I understand why you're pissed off. But you chose to open your legs, man. You chose to do that. There's opportunities. Back then, we don't have the laws we have there. Back then, it's like you want to get an abortion, you need to go right down the fucking street and just, five and dime store or some shit, right? But you chose to have me. So now I am your responsibility until I'm 18 years old. As a mom, you should be a protector. You protect your children. You look at any mammals when it comes to that. The mother is the most protective. She will kill somebody. She will kill another animal. She would do everything she could for her kids. People don't do that these days. I don't think they've ever done that. I mean, that'd be a few folks, but I don't see that shit. So the things that she would say to me is just, like you're never going to amount to shit. You're never going to amount to anything. You're not ever going to do this. You're never going to be a better person. And my mom dropped out of school like in eighth grade or some shit, right? And when I passed up eighth grade, of course, I'm the smart ass kid by now. I think I got it all figured out, which I still don't. And she's like, you just think you're better than me. And I'm like, well, I did make it to the ninth grade. Yeah, she didn't like that. She slapped the shit out of me. My mom was physically abusive like that. But, um, she pushed sexuality on me. My brother was already, like, he was a couple years older than me. He was already out there doing his thing, having kids or whatever. My sister, I don't even know. I don't really talk to my sister about that because I don't want to envision my sister around some shit like that. But they were all apparently sexually active, and this, I think I was like 13 years old. And I was in a children's home, and every now and again, they, according to the rules, they have to bring me home for, a certain amount of time to keep that money flowing to them. You'd think that they would pay to have me there as far as the parents, but that they pay the parents. I didn't realize that 2 years later. Buckner's Children's Home was just god awful. It was so bad. So she pushed all this stuff on me. Years later, or let's just take when I was 43, I found out that I had low testosterone, like very low. I think I was like a 160, and I'm supposed to, at that age, I should have been at least at a 5 or 600. I didn't go through puberty like, normal boys did. I didn't have that. My mom, she was an addict of all kinds of things, and I don't know if she was on some shit when she had me or whatever, if that was the cause, or maybe it's just a fluke, or I don't really know where all that comes from. There's not really a whole lot of science in it. I mean, it's getting better. So the point of that is, I didn't have those teenage growing pains. I didn't have pimples. I didn't have that drive and that desire to find a woman, or a girl at that time, or like, oh man, I have all these crushes. I didn't have all that shit. That just wasn't in me. And my mom took it as like, oh, well, you must be gay because you're not having sex. No, one is I got more important things than worrying about some girl. You know, I was the last person to eat in my house. Like if there was something left, I got it. I was malnutrition like a motherfucker. Everything went to my brother, and it went down on that tier. My stepdad went first, then my mom, then my brother, then my sister, and if there was something left, then I got something. We didn't have candy. My mom was throwing candy in front of us, and we're like them dogs sitting there salivating at the mouth. We didn't get none of that shit. That was adult food. That's what it was called. Oh, this is for adults. This isn't for kids. This isn't good for you. My mom was always like, you always brush your teeth. Make sure your teeth is brushed. And I'm sitting there like, what am I going to get out of it? Fucking air? I mean, I don't eat. You don't feed me. So with that, she started thinking that I was gay. And there's nothing against that. I'm not against, like I said, I love everybody. I don't really care if you're gay or not or whatever. That's your prerogative, Like I said in other videos, as long as you're happy, man, I'm happy. I'm happy for you. Do what you got to do. You know, I'm not gonna push to say, hey, I'm straight, so you should be straight. And the gay people that are my friends, they're like, oh, you need to be gay. People just They got a big miss. I call them old school gays. Old school gays are just, man, they're just old school. It's just like, man, I'm gay. So what? This is what I love. This is my business, and I'm not going to judge you for it because you love who you love. I'm not going to get into that track either. But then I just kind of looked at my mom and I was like, why would you think that? I mean, what makes you an expert on it? I was a smart ass back then. So, I mean, I deserved a lot of shit. I didn't deserve all of it, but I deserved a lot of shit that I got knocked around for. I was a smart ass. Where do you think I got that from? But anyway, well, I was like, well, you're not interested in girls, and I don't see you have any girlfriends and all this other kind of shit. Now, back then in the 80s, things were about style. They had the Gucci, pants, and there's, I can't even think because I never had them. Zeke Cavaricci's, it was the cool shoes and the cool attire and shit like that. I didn't have none of the shit. Now I'm 6'3", and then I probably was like 5'10" at this time. You know, maybe 5'8". And my brother was just, he's half Hispanic, half white. Like nobody even knows who his dad is, but I got hand me downs from this guy. So the clothes that I had didn't fit me because I was taller. So, high waters. When my mom got me clothes, I got already been used clothes, and those were the new ones for me. You know, and it's okay. I'm okay. I'll go thrift stores now because you can find some good stuff there. But it's like I got just rags, man. It felt like, and Pro Wings, Payless Pro Wings. Now, being a child, because my dad, I think, was like 6'4" or 6'5" or some shit like that. I was the tallest out of all the kids here on my mom's side, right? And I'm gonna grow. And you had other kids, so you got to realize that my foot gets bigger every year, or it can be every 6 months. I had this same pair of shoes, I swear, for 4 years, and they were Pro Wings. I had duct tape keeping the motherfuckers together. So just envision all that. On top of the fact that my vision was bad, I got, it could be hereditary, or it could be that I got a lot of black eyes as a kid. I got jumped a lot. My stepdad had a heavy hand. I can give you a million reasons why. So I ended up having to wear glasses, and the only glasses they can afford for me was something that didn't fit my face. So we're gonna add all this jumbled up shit together. And I want you to go back to what I told you before. My mom was like, why are you doing this? You apparently got to be gay. But let's just take a quick inventory of the situation here. And I'm saying this to my mom. It's not the exact word or nothing, but that's probably how it was in my mind, but it never comes out. Like things in your mind, right? Let's take my brother. Okay, mom. He gets all the best clothes. He gets anything he wants. He looks healthy because he gets to eat before I do. He's not malnutritioned. I didn't use that word back then, but I'm using it now. Women like him because he's in style. He looks like a normal kid. I look like a fucking crackhead baby. I look like a homeless kid, a skinny homeless kid. And you're wondering why I'm not able to get the women or girls back then? What the fuck you think, woman? Look at me. You know, you shot my confidence saying I'm never gonna be worth a shit. You don't feed me like you should. You don't clothe me like you should. I don't get to get out of the house like everybody else does because guess who's in there doing all the fucking chores and shit? It's like a male version of Cinderella and shit. I'm like y'all's bitch boy. So how am I supposed to? I've got to overcome my own bullshit and feel comfortable in my own body before I can even think about doing anything. You know? She of course is like, yeah, you're probably a faggot. I'm like, well, good vote of comments there. And if I am, oh, you're no kid of mine. Bet you had me. I'm a product of your bullshit. So as that all went down, I went through a phase of where I just felt like I wasn't even like I was adopted or shit. And I'm sure some kids feel that way today and back then and everything. Those day and times, like I said, CPS was totally different. You go to CPS, you gotta basically be half dead and shit with the, you know, them actually seeing some shit happen to you before they'll take you away from your family. So I was in and out of Buckner's Children's Home, and there was a guy that actually he was really cool, and he was actually from Plano. He's probably dead now because he was a little bit older then, and he wanted to adopt me. You know, he would take me and a buddy of mine, Emmett, that uh, was in a children's home together. He kind of protected me while I was in there because I got in a lot of fights when I was in there. I mean, I was just a scrawny kid, and people was like, "You beat up the scrawny kid." That's how I was. He wore glasses. Yeah, we're gonna jump this guy because he's different. You know, that's just how it was back then. And you go through all this trauma, and you try to feel some kind of relief or something that's going to help you out. And this guy, I can't even remember his name to save my life, but he had a wife and they couldn't have any kids, and they wanted to adopt, you know, someone that's already, you know, basically in the teenage years. That way, they were older parents. You know, you don't want to be. I think they were like in their actually probably my age now. You don't want any babies and stuff like that. You want someone that's already kind of grown, because you don't want to be going to graduation. It's like, oh, hey, you got your grandparents here. You know, whatever the situation is. But he wanted to adopt me, and my mom had to sign off on it. No, no, she was collecting money off my ass. Like, I don't even have the same last name as my other siblings. My mom still can't explain that shit to me. You know, oh, it's too expensive to get your name. Well, what if knew who the fuck the father was? Maybe you could put their name on there. Which luckily I got my dad's name. My last name is something. I mean, I was telling my father, I don't want to carry my name on through all the bad history of my name, but I got brothers and sisters out there that have, or brothers, sisters going to have their names changed, but the brothers out there that have the last name, so that's just going to be, there's no way that's going to happen. On my end, it's going to, because my wife and I can't have kids. And I'll get into that here in a minute. But so you go through all this trauma of mental, and then my stepdad was very abusive. Like he was actually raised in Buckner's Children's Home. He was Hispanic, and they were always on some kind of drug or some dumb shit, and they just were toxic together. I mean, my dad, I have a bad day, and he's just, oh, where's John the punching bag? Let me just go ahead, and he was an amateur boxer. Let me go beat this motherfucker a little bit. Maybe make me feel better. It's like someone kicking their dog. It's like, man, I just want to kick my dog. You know. As I got older, you know, I went through some of this stuff that went down. Others probably have had way worse than I have. I mean, I guarantee that. But trying to fight through and find motivation in life at that time was very hard. And the odd thing is not once did I ever think about suicide. Not once did I think I was depressed. Not once did I think my world's coming to an end. You just live. You don't think about anything like that. You know, kids today, it's just like they cyber bullies. Oh, and I feel bad that they ended up committing suicide. I'm not saying that it's a bad situation, but it's just like, man, I don't know how you would have made it back then, because you got bullied in like in your face. You got jumped because you looked differently. You got jumped because you weren't that race. You got jumped for a lot of shit. I mean, I got jumped a lot. Like, I've probably had 5 or 6 one-on-one fights in my life, and I probably won 4 of them. One of them I didn't. It was I got respect, and that guy ended up being my friend later on. It was in 5th grade, and I hate to go on a rabbit hole, but that's got to explain some shit. Emmett Durley. This guy was he would my stepdad. He Here's another thing, reason why, you know, I wasn't that attractive kid. At this moment, he would shave my head bald, right? Because it was funny. So I'm going to school looking like I got cancer and shit. And this guy, you know, this black dude, he'd come up and he'd just smack me in the back of the head, you know, and he was bigger than I was. At the school I went to, it was called Rosemont, the elementary school in Oak Cliff. And they had this beat up ass tennis court that just, like, I don't even know if in the history if anybody played tennis there. I mean, it looked like a bad freaking zombie movie scene and shit. It was just all torn the hell up. And at the end of the year, which was, you get older and you think, well, you know, that's actually a pretty good solution. Everybody would go down to this place and they would hash out their yearly bullshit. You'd fight whoever you wanted to fight at that time. And it was, I'm not saying it was peaceful, but it was some organized shit. You point out who you want to fight. It wasn't you getting jumped. It was one on one, like in my mind, it should be. Handle up your business. You lose, you shake hands, you become friends, or you don't. Because you're going from sixth grade to seventh grade. Seventh grade was Griner. Griner was, oof, that was a rough school. But this guy, I was just like, this is my chance. Yeah, I think I was probably 5'7", 5'8", probably 80 pounds, soaking wet, just a skinny ass kid. I mean, they called me Stretch, and Big Bird, big feet and long neck. And it just, things just were all unproportionate at that age, right? And top of the fact that I was malnutritioned and shit. I looked like a freaking crackhead, right? I was like, man, here's my chance. I'm gonna let this motherfucker know what's up. Man, he got out there and said who has beef with him, and he was the school bully. He was probably the biggest person. Like he probably was supposed to be in like 11th grade or some shit. I'm just joking. I don't know. He was a big dude. So I just walked up and bam, I hit him. And at that moment, I knew I fucked up. He looked at me and smiled, and I was like, oh, Lord Jesus. Shit's gonna go down like me. One punch, he hit me, I fell down, and it was like something out of a movie or something, because I remember it vividly. It's like he hit me, I fell, hit my head on the ground. I mean, my noggin didn't crack open or nothing, but and I just kind of sit there, and he didn't come over there and finish me off or anything. He put his hand down and he grabbed me, picked me up, and he was like, I've got respect for you. You're the only person out here that actually dared hit me. He goes, I got respect for that. I'm sitting there trying to put my jaw and shit back together. No, but he shook my hand. I remember that day very vividly. And I was like, okay. He picked up my glasses and handed them to me. They were all broken and shit, which I got my ass beat when I got home for that one. And he just basically said, keep your head up. Fight your fears. This is a bully telling me this shit. Come find out he wasn't really a bully. It's just people used to make fun of him, and he just ended up being this guy that, like, fuck it. Whoever messes me, I'm just gonna fuck with you back. You don't realize that as a kid, as what that other person is going through. And that's the thing that I've learned as years progressed of being the person that I am today. You know, choices that you make in life. There's this guy on TikTok that I said some shit to him, but anyway, this guy was sitting here talking about, oh, you're saying that your dogs are your kids. Motherfucker, they're dogs. Blah 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 blah. I have 3 kids. Da, da, da. Of course, me being the typical asshole that I am, my dogs are my kids. I don't give a fuck what you think. But let me tell you the difference between my dogs and your motherfucking kids. I have to pay school taxes on your fucking kids, and I don't have any. Why am I paying for your fucking kids? You're not paying a tax for my dogs. You're not doing shit but talking shit about my dogs. And yeah, they are my kids. Yeah, I do have to feed them and stuff because they don't have thumbs. They can't stand up on 2 legs and do whatever, but I'm going to give them the best life, how short or long it is. Because that's to me, those are my kids. No, they're not going to college, and they think, oh, they're not expensive for kids. And I'm like, well, maybe you need to learn how to raise your kids right or some shit. Because my dogs, granted, they tear some shit up, and they're expensive to feed, but it ain't as expensive as a kid. And I understand you bitching about that, but you chose to have those kids. Okay? I chose to have dogs. God chose for me not to be able to have kids. And my wife is not able to have kids. Can I adopt kids? No, I can't. Would I? If I was in a financial situation, yeah. You know, even with all 5 of my dogs, and I didn't have those and I had a kid, I would not be able to afford that kid. So your life choices are your life choices. Quit bitching about it. You know, look at the other side of the railroad tracks. While people that can't have kids or don't have kids, they got to pay for your fucking kids to go to school. We have to pay that. So anyway, that was a quick little rant on some bullshit on TikTok, but this guy did have some good things to say, so I'm not hating on him. He just talks about you make your choices in life. You define your journey. You are responsible for your actions. And I 100% firmly believe that. There's luck and there's handouts and there's cracked doors and open doors to get you in places, but you are the person that makes those moves in life. And that's where the motivation for this podcast is going to come in. I had to learn, and I'm still going to continue to learn because that's just life. When you reach a certain age, you start realizing what your life is going to be about. You think of your pipe dreams and things that you want to do. I hate IT. I'm good at what I do. I don't enjoy it. I enjoy the customer aspect of it. I used to join the teamwork, but there's no team at my job. I'm not going to get into that because it's just personally my stuff. It might be one or maybe it ain't. I don't know. Personally, I don't think so. But I'm going to do what they pay me to do. And I used to rant and bitch about it. I made those choices to be like that. There's some choices that are out of your control, and those are called roadblocks. And my wife taught me, go around it, find a different way. There's always a path. But if you don't put forth that motivation to find that path, don't blame everybody else for your bullshit. Because I used to do that. I'd blame how I grew up, man. Fuck, I lost half my life having to deal with some depressing bullshit of how my mom treated her, how my stepdad used to beat the hell out of me, or people made fun of me and shit like that. And I just, I had to do everything I did. I went and joined the military. I spent most of my life single. I think I was 23 years old when I lost my virginity. And it was to a gay chick. Isn't that fucked up? She never had sex with a guy. I never had sex at all. You know, it was short lived. Let me tell you, it didn't work out very well. We were friends. We actually used to watch NASCAR together. She was cool people, though. Never saw again after that. But, you know, I stayed single because I had that mentality that I'm still that unsuccessful kid that's never going nowhere, that I'm still that skinny kid that got knocked the fuck out in sixth grade, or I was that skinny kid that was malnutritioned. Blaming everything, blaming my mom, blaming for that shit. I make my choices. There's some things that are out of your control as a kid. You can't just like, okay, I'm changing my parents. That's understandable. But once you start getting some mental knowledge and start getting where your brain's developed to where you can start making real choices in life, nobody or people try to tell you in school or people try to tell you, and as kids, we think we already have the answers and we don't. We just don't. I don't have it. I'm 50 years old. I don't have any answers, you know, but at that time, I was so work oriented. I always had two jobs. I always worked because my main concern was having a roof over my head. I had this fear and I let that manifest into like I wasn't good enough for somebody. I wasn't good enough for this job. My confidence was just, there was no confidence. Building confidence is harder than a lot of people think. You know, I gained weight when I went into the military. I started looking a little bit better. And, I had a few, you know, women that found me attractive, but I still didn't have a drive. I didn't have that thrill to hunt. I had no testosterone. People's like, oh, if you didn't have no testosterone, how are you alive? It's no testosterone. Your mind forces you to do something. You know, when people are like, well, you're in the military, what did you talk to? Nobody knew nothing about that back then. Google some shit of when TRT started coming out. It's it's just recent, 10, some odd, 15 years or some shit. They didn't have that back then. They just called you lazy. Bringing all that up and being able to speak about some of the things, and of course, I'm not going to go in depth of details and things like that. That's just not proper for me at this point in time. But it molds you who you are today. Finding motivation to be a better person is a daily task. that you gotta accomplish. Like they say, when you wake up in the morning and make your bed, I don't do that shit. Sorry, because my wife's probably still sleeping in there. I get up, I go to work. She sleeps in. She has a lot that she does during the day. It's not a privilege for her. For me, it's a right for her to be able to do that. When I married my wife, I told her I want you to be able to do whatever you want to do if I'm able to make that happen for you. And that's any aspect of, you know, the difference in my wife and I is the fact that if the laundry doesn't get done, I'm not in there, hey, why the fuck didn't you do the laundry? Or if she just wanted to lay in bed all day, I'm not sitting there, why are you laying in bed all day? Excuse my besties. See all that rawness to keep everything in here. I'm not taking that out. She has an opportunity to do whatever she wants. And I just feel that that just kind of helps everybody out. My wife lets me do a lot of things. There's some things that she gives me her opinion about, and sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't. But the thing with my wife and I is we have a lot of compromise. We give 50 of everything. Yeah, I'm the breadwinner if you want to call it that, but my wife does all the finances. Can I do it? Yeah, I did it my whole life, but she's better at it. Strengths and weaknesses. That's how you have that compromise to make your life work. And we still argue about some dumb shit that more likely I caused or something I misinterpreted, and that's just shit's gonna happen. You're not ever gonna change that shit. But that's where you get growth for everything. My wife is my savior. A lot of people ask me, like, well, what do you mean? So getting back into growing and talking about, I never thought about suicide as a kid and depression and everything. Depression is something, and just me personally, I'm not an expert at it. I mean, I did go to school for psychology. I never graduated or nothing with it because internship and being able to have a job is, hey mom, can I stay with you while I do this internship? No, that shit doesn't work. And back then, they don't pay you for internships. They probably could do it now, but I gave that shit. It was for child advocacy psychology, right? There's a lot of crazy shit out there. I'm not going to get into that, but so I was just I was just at this point in my life, and this was probably 9 years ago, and this is where I knew I had a problem. Now, I just woke up one morning and I don't know if anybody's ever been this way or anything, but this is the only way I can explain it. I just woke up and I just didn't care about anything. There was no music I was interested in. There was no movies I wanted to watch, and that was like my pastime. There's no, and I wasn't a gamer, so we can skip that. There wasn't a book that I wanted to read. There wasn't anywhere I wanted to go. I didn't want to go out and drive my car because I love driving. I just didn't care about shit. I just, I had no interest in nothing. If I didn't have interest in breathing, I would have thought about that and probably would have stopped breathing. It's just that kind of thing. And a buddy of mine had some work done on his gun and he took mine, right? Do I have something done? And that's why I say you know, you can call it what you want, divine intervention, God, whatever. Me personally, I think it was an angel that was watching out for me at this time. If my gun was in the house at that time, I wouldn't be here today. I like literally, I went to where my gun was and it wasn't there, and I was just going to pull the trigger. There was no thoughts. The thing about suicides are different for a lot of people. The people sit there and say, "Oh, I'm going to die. I'm going to kill myself," or some kind of shit. You're seeking attention, And I've had a person say that to me one time. That just their life was sucks, and me, I was an asshole. Do I feel bad about it? No, I don't, because I've been there. I'm like, if you're going to do it, fucking do it, man. Don't do it on my doorstep. Go somewhere and handle your fucking business. Do what you got to do. If you want to give up on life, you know, that's your call. That's your choice. I'm not going to feel bad for you. Will I miss you? Yeah, but it's selfish. How's that being selfish? I'm not hurting nobody. Look, dumbass. As a friend, I care about you. Your family care about you. You might not think they do, but they do. Three things that's going to happen if you kill yourself. First, you're being selfish. Okay? You're basically just giving up. There are still ways to find your path. Two, you're you're taking yourself out of people's lives that care about you. You know, ask for help. And it's hard, man. It is so hard. And I get that. And through the financial burden, your debt becomes someone in your family. Your burial is someone else's responsibility. Everything that carries on. Then you got to think of the ripple effect and the domino effect of how it affects other people. Could I have done something better? And all of a sudden, you're just putting them in that same aspect, in the same spiral that you're in, that they'll get out of or they won't get out of. Like, man, I should have done a better job. I should have been there for them. And it's all the what ifs and all the bullshit. So, doing so, you're affecting more people than yourself. You're basically getting a free ride. You know, nobody knows what happens after you die. There's a lot of people out there like, oh, I saw God, I saw a tunnel, I saw this, I saw darkness. There's so many different people. It's just like, look, man, you know what? Whatever. We don't know until we're there, right? So I don't like to make assumptions. I like to have like, hey, me, I believe that I'm just gonna go to sleep, and I believe in that part of the Bible that one day I will be risen up. Now, if I go to heaven, then there's gonna be judgment. You know, God's going to judge me of what I've done. He knows what I do. And I'm not going to go into a religious rant, but that's what I believe in. I'm not against anybody else and what you believe in or whatever. That's just me personally, right? I'm not going to knock what you got going on. So the Savior part, it was, I sat there and I thought, and I remember sitting there. And at the time I was in between jobs, and it's always when you're at your lowest point in life that you want to think about this thing. Mine wasn't that, and maybe I did, and I didn't kind of quite mentally put that together at the time. But after meeting my wife, and she actually went to school for drug abuse psychology, right? I wasn't on drugs or anything, but you sit there and you think about that, and you're like, man, who all will this affect? Because at that time you do it, you just think that you're alone. You are at that moment, but you don't know who's actually thinking about you. You know, if you don't really know whose life that you affect before doing that or after doing that, you just don't know. And in my mind, I sit there and I was just like, okay, so why my gun's not here? Because I would have pulled the trigger. I didn't have a suicide note. I didn't show suicide tendencies. No one really knew. You learn how to mask feelings. I had to mask feelings growing up. You becoming very skilled at it as you get older of how to mask things. And depression is just different for everybody in my mind. People will just say, oh, we diagnosed you with depression. It's like, motherfucker, no. I'm not depressed. I'm just in a bad place if I just can't get shit together. I'm not sad about it. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not ending my life because I'm just saying, I'm in it because I don't care about shit. And you get to that point, and that is part of depression, I know now. But you wake up and you just don't care about nothing. It's just like nothing matters. That should have been my time. But I sat back and I thought about it, and I was just like, okay, a couple of things for me. One is what I believe is suicide is one of the unforgivable sins. And I do want to one day be in heaven. If there's a heaven, I mean, I feel that there is. I don't know. But I'd like to think that there is, you know? So there's that part. And then I just started talking about the other things that I had said to this other, friend of mine. And I was just like, how many lives are going to affect by taking mine? I am taking the easy way out. And the thing is, in life, nothing is easy, but things are rewarding. They're not the big awards that you expect. They're like winning small battles, achieving some goals. And again, I'm not that guy that's just going to be, this is what you do to achieve a goal, because I don't know what you got. I don't know what's going to help you out. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not even a novice at that. But I know where I'm at in life. It's better than it was. My wife came along. One day I'll do a podcast of how we met and things like that. It's actually a pretty interesting story, but she was my angel. And again, when people say, well, how do you figure? She is the only woman in my life that I ever said I loved you to. Ever. I never said I love you to my mom. Love did not exist in my household. It just didn't exist. That word, you did, I never heard that word in my household. So, if you love eating something or you love the way something does or something like that, but not I love you. My wife showed me how to be that. That's why she's my savior. She brought a lot of things in my life that I didn't know that I missed, that I needed. So when we're talking motivation, me, when we got married, I told her, hey, I want you to be able to do whatever you want in life because you deserve it. So she does whatever she wants. The thing is, I thought I was going to be in a better place financially. I got out of contract and got hired on at a company, and I was the happy man. I still have people today be like, "Man, you like the happiest person to have a job." And I was like, "It's not that I have a job. It's just I wanted to work somewhere where I can get promoted and grow and retire from this company because that's just how it was back then. That's what you do. Minus the White House and the picket fence and the 2.3, 2.5 kids and a fucking dog. They ain't a White House and no picket fences. No kids. 5 motherfucking dogs. But I'll take that any day. And that's was my expectations. Well, that didn't happen. And I'm not going to go into it because I'm not going to badmouth my company or anything like that. Two reasons why. One is because if they find out that's me that's doing this, they'll probably find a way to fire me. And two, you know, they pay me to do a job and I'm going to do what I got to do. You know, I'm going to be that guy that's going to work. I'm always going to work. I work to the day I die. I mean, I'll probably retire at some time, but I'm still going to do something. So I'm not bringing my current job in there. The fact that, I can bitch and I did that a lot. I rant, and vented to the wrong people. And that shit got up to upper management. And it put a bad taste in my mouth. It don't matter how good of an engineer I am. It doesn't matter how I bring the team together. It doesn't matter what I bring to the table. They don't care. I worked at a place, no lie, the guy that actually talked me into doing this, Sean Jackson, love you, brother. This dude, before he got hired, it was this aircom company, and I was taking the place of a guy that was literally dying in the hospital, and they were already giving his job away. And that's just, everybody knows that. I'm not going to go through all that. Everybody knows about how corporate is. That's just how it is. That's just life. I was this happy guy that was happy to have this job. And just like my wife used to make fun of me. She was like, she stayed the night over before we got married. She stayed the night over my house or whatever. And the days I work from home, I'm just in there typing and laughing and having a good time. And everybody at work is like, man, you're funny, man. You come in here and you just brighten up the room and blah, blah, blah. 2 years in and shit went dark. And you just start seeing people progressing more than you. And I fell in this pool of, I wouldn't call it, let's call it work depression. It ain't life depression, it's work depression. And I'm seeing motherfuckers get hired, not hired, but passing me up there, just like, man, we're seriously this person? I mean, what the hell? Look at all I've done. Look how much I've done for this company, this department. Look how I touched all these customers and I closed all these cases and I grabbed a ton of cases and they used to call me because of severity, Sev 2 King, you know, but I realized it was me, not my job that I'm doing. It was me personally, my personality. I could be wrong, but so I just kind of tied into you just, I got into this dark, not wanting to kill myself or anything like that. I would never do that. I would never do that to my wife. I would never do that to people that care about me. I had one time that I was going to do it and I just thought it was just me. No, I don't care how bad it gets. That's just not going to happen. My wife and I, we make shit work. We'll figure some shit out. We'll rub two freaking pennies together and make a quarter and we'll figure it out. But I pulled myself into this work depression of like, man, am I that bad of an engineer? And my mind started going back. And they didn't say this per se. But my mind went back to what my mom was telling me. You're just never going to amount to shit. You're never going to be nobody. I wish I didn't have you. You make my life miserable. I can't have any fun in life because of you fucking kids. You know, that was an everyday conversation. It wasn't a conversation. It was being talked at. And my mind started going back there. ADHD is a fickle thing. It will take you down a rabbit hole of whatever that subject ends up being, and it would just eat you up. And I vented, and I ranted, and I bitched, and I griped, and I complained. And I was just digging myself in a deeper hole. I don't honestly know at the beginning what the real reason is. It could be me, it could be them. Nobody knows. I'm not going to throw blame on nobody. You know, if it was something I did, I'll take full responsibility. I just don't know what I did to where I see people pass me up, and I trained some of these people and they're passing me up. I don't own a pair of knee pads. I call them knee padders because, there's some cocksuckers. You know, I'm not going to be that guy. I don't kiss nobody's ass. This is what I do. This is how well I do my job. It's not because of you. It's because you pay me. Now you're not going to pay me more. You're not going to promote me. Then you're going to have this same person. You want me to do more? You pay me more. I've been scratching your motherfucking back for a hot minute and you're not scratching mine. So I went through that whole phase. And my wife was affected by it the most, honestly, because I would get off work and I was just this hateful person. And she put up with it and put up with it and put up with it until finally she's just like, something's got to fucking give. Now, it's not like my wife was going to leave me. I mean, I don't know what she was thinking, but I like to believe she wasn't going to leave me for it. But if the path continued on that, shit would get worse. And I try to fight back and I try to, you know, give my thoughts and my opinion on it and shit like that. And the problem is she was on the outside looking in. Granted, she doesn't know what's going on. She knows what goes on in my work sometimes, but she's not sitting there seeing the shit that they say. And I don't tell her about all that crap. But she knows me and she knows that I'm going through something. And this went on for a hot minute. You know, I ended up getting promoted, but it wasn't promoted because it was something I did. It was just something that they fucked up on. And they're like, oh shit, we better promote this guy, because we already said that, how's your new role? And well, he's not in that new role. I'm not going to go down there. But that's probably as far as I'm ever going to be in here. And I've had some of that. Your motivation just gets sapped and it starts affecting your personal life. I should leave everything at work, and it was hard for me because one, I work 100% remote, and it's just like, man, I got to be able to decompress between my office and the rest of the house. It takes a lot longer for me on that. I'm that person is I can get real pissed like real quick, but I can get back down to the bottom very quick, except when it comes to this shit. So I was letting my bullshit flow into my personal life. And you see these people on TikTok, and I've watched them. They're just like, don't let this do this, don't do that. And these motherfuckers are like in their 20s and shit. It's like, motherfucker, you just started fucking working. What the fuck do you know? But again, there's the other side of the coin of you can learn something, whether it's a kid or someone. There's always somebody that's going to have maybe a good idea or might have a good grip on something that can help you out. So I'm not going to bash that shit. I'm just telling you, she goes, you got to get your shit together, man. We can't continue doing this. This just isn't healthy. It's causing problems with our marriage on people that don't give a flying fuck about you. Now, I'm a stubborn motherfucker. That's obvious. And it affected everything in my personal life, like my mood, like our intimacy was just, we just weren't in that great place or whatever. And you can blame it on testosterone, you can blame it on a million different shits, but at the end of the day, it was me. I had to make a choice. my job or my wife. And I love my wife. And I hate this fucking job. I do it because I have to pay my bills. So I went into a phase called fuck it. And I've been coasting that for about 8 months now. I'm still doing my job, but I'm not gonna kill myself like I used to. I'm not gonna provide you solutions to something I know will work because I've seen it work. I'm not gonna provide you something so you can turn around and say, oh, this was my idea because it's happened to me. My wife knows. She's like, stop giving them ideas because you're never gonna. It's not about getting the credit. It's about saying validation, of hey, I don't like kudos and shit like that. I know I did a good job because I put a lot of time and effort and feeling into that. I just want someone to say, hey, continue, continue doing what you got to do. Give me a high five. Man, John, you're doing good. Man, we need to give you a raise. You know, that's what I want. Never get it. So I just said, fuck it. I just woke up one day, and the thing with cracking that code in your mind or my mind in that aspect was mind blowing. I've gotten a lot better since then. But the initial crack, I was just like, man, I just don't give a fuck. I mean, I'm still going to do my job, but damn, man, I am not going to let nobody affect me. I'm not going to engage in anything. I'm not doing none of that shit. You pay me down here, that's what you're going to get. You want to fire me for doing the job that you pay me? Please do. Because then I can collect my 401k, collect unemployment, which is probably going to pay me more than you're fucking paying me or damn near close. And I don't have to deal with your bullshit. I will find something else. You just, you know, you're basically giving an excuse to do better. I mean, I don't want them to fire me. If they do, it is what it is, right? But getting back to the whole motivation, the things that I have seen and dealt with, and having somebody, and you're not always, I mean, you might not get that, you might, but if you're lucky to have someone in your life that's going to help you in that arena, at first you want to push back, and that's what I did. Because I'm just like, man, my shit's under control. You don't know nothing. Yeah, my wife knows me better than anybody, and it's hard to ask for help. It was for me. I wanted the validation that I was able to do it on my own, but that just doesn't work for some people. It didn't work for me. My wife brought me up and gave me motivation. It's like the whole podcast thing. My wife wasn't like, yeah, okay, you're gonna do a podcast, motherfucker. Good luck. No, my wife was like, good. I think you should. You know, try to find something that makes you happy. Have some goals. Get some shit going, man. Hell yeah. You know, she was like my favorite cheer squad, man. She's always got my back. And a lot of you probably don't have that, and it sucks. But you got to keep moving on, and that's what motivation looks like to me. You find something and you stick with it. Will it always pan out? No, but that's also life. Life doesn't always pan out the way you want to. You got to find them roadblocks, or excuse me, you're going to run into those roadblocks and you got to find a different path. We don't know where our path is going to end. The one thing that is definitely that you're going to know is you're going to die one day. I'm not about legacy. It's not like I want to die and say, hey, this guy John was just blah, blah. I don't want legacy. I want now to be a happy person. It's the present. And just like my wife said, it's what happens in the present that's going to dictate our future. Don't let your past predict your future. Very good quote by my wife, by the way. So I'm working on that. My motivation, which it should have came before, is a motivation that I get from my wife and seeing the things that she deals with. People are just like, your wife doesn't work. Yeah, she does. Well, what does she do? She manages the house. She takes care of us. She's not getting paid. Yeah, she is. It's not when I get my paycheck from work, I ask my wife, how much did we make? How much money do we have? If my wife didn't do the things that she did, I can't do the things that I do. And me and my eyes, that's a real marriage. That's a real partnership. She brings a lot of valuable things to the table. It's not always about money. And when people do that and they have separate banks and stuff like that, hey, I mean, that's your prerogative. I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. My wife and I, she handles, I don't remember the last time I looked at my bank statement. I don't care because my wife's going to make sure that we are taken care of. If there's something that I want or something I need, I tell my wife, hey, I'm kind of looking at this. I mean, and she was like, all right, let me look and see what we got. She didn't tell me no. She's like, let me see. And she'll let me know. Well, we can do this and do that, and we can make that work. But if we can't make it work, she's like, yeah, that's just not going to happen. I'm not mad. I'm just like, okay, we'll figure it out later on. And 9 times out of 10, we figured it out later on. You know, my wife, she goes and spends money. I don't ever question her how much she spent or what she did because she handles the finances. She's not going to let us go broke. And she is like a master when it comes to money in my eyes. She is a financial genius. She handles up. So her giving me that motivation of being able to, I got the idea, or push towards with my buddy Sean, but what keeps me going, of course, he's got some part of it, but a lot of it is my wife. And a lot of it is validation for me that they have this saying that you can always do something you put your mind to. That's bullshit. That doesn't always happen. It's not being negative. It's just like some things are unattainable. You have pipe dreams, which some people are able to make that happen, and kudos to you. But you also got to set reality goals, you know? And there's nothing wrong saying, hey, I want to be an astronaut one day. And you're sitting there in a wheelchair. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe one day they might make that happen for you, you know? Or you're on a breathing machine or some shit. It's like, yeah, I want to be an astronaut. I'm not gonna kill your vibe, man. Happy for you. Me, I'm just like, I'm not sitting here saying, ooh, I want to be a podcast star. I want to be a YouTube star. I want to be famous on TikTok. I don't, you know, my wife asked me probably a couple times in the marriage, she goes, what would you do if we win the lottery? And I was like, well, one, we ain't never going to win the lottery because we don't play. I'm not spending money on shit. I don't gamble. We live actually literally 5 minutes away from a casino, and we've been there maybe twice. I'm just not a gambling person. I don't have that. Thank God, right? But I'm just saying, honestly, I was like, I don't ever want to be rich like that. A few reasons. One, money changes people. I can sit here and say all day that it won't, but I can't predict the future. Two, now if I made money to where we can go out somewhere and not have to sit there and be like, oh, let's check the bank account. We got to save up for like a month just to go and eat a nice dinner. That would be nice, but that's not money rich, you know. Now, if I sit there and say, which I joked around, I was like, I wouldn't mind going to the store and wanting to buy you like some clothes or something, not having to look at the price tag. I mean, I'm not talking about being like on Rodeo Drive or some shit, but just, like a normal fucking store, just a local store where they sell jeans and shit. It was like, man, I like these jeans. Let me try them on. They fit. Let's buy them. You know, not some $600-700 pair of freaking jeans that's got some dude or chick's name on it or some shit. It's trivial. But it would be nice. I mean, it's not like we want like a mansion for a house. I mean, one, that's just too much shit to fucking clean. And then the land tax and then the taxes on a huge fucking house. You imagine your electricity bill for some of these motherfuckers? Now, if you have a shit ton of money and you're able to do that, then hey, that's great. I had a neighbor that they won the lottery. They had like $12 million after all said and done. It lasted them 2 fucking years and they were in debt. How in the fuck does that happen? Because people that get rich, the first thing they do, all these things I wanted my whole life, I need it now. Here's the thing about that. Sometimes when you get that thing that you thought that you've always wanted, give it about a month or two. Look over in the corner, that motherfucking shit's collecting dust. You know? Me, if I had that money, first of all, I would make sure that family was taken care of. If I had that money and I was able to clear everybody in my family's debt, I would do that first. You know? Because family to me is important. I have my wife's family. That's my family now. I mean, I have a sister that I love to death, but that's my family. That's what I would do. As far as doing the podcast and things, that's just, I'm not saying it's just something to pass the time. It's just something that's, you never know if you're good at something unless you do it. I can critique myself all day. I can have people say, hey, just keep it up. And I like that. I like that kind of motivation. And my main thing is just, I'm never going to try to tell somebody what to do because I'm not in your situation. All I can say is this is the situation that I've been in. And that's the series that I'm going with. This is just coping with, and it's not comedy. I mean, some of the comedy is in there and it just goes back to, I don't really know where this channel is supposed to be at, mental health. I mean, fuck, I don't know. But the things that I love and I found in life, with my wife and my dogs and the realization that you don't always get what you want, but work to get what you need. Those things will come if they're supposed to come. And it sounds, and it sounds easy coming out of my mouth, but it's not. I don't like living where we live at. I freaking hate this place. And my wife knows. And I used to say it all the time. I don't say it anymore. It's not just for me, but it's for her. This is what we got. This is what we got to work with. And my wife lets me know that all the time. This, until finally I was just like, you know what? You're right. I'm stubborn like that. I'm defiant to my wife. No, I'm just joking. But you have to soak some of that in. You have to kind of sit there and think about it. I have ADHD, and you know how hard it is to clear. If you have ADHD, you know how hard it is just to clear your mind and just kind of focus on one thing. It will tire you the fuck out. I've managed to do that on occasion, and when I do the things that I choose, because you got to choose what rabbit hole you want to go down. Well, you don't really choose it sometimes; it just happens. But if you're able to focus, mine was on how to be more positive, how to get the negative energy out. Negative energy is toxic, and I've learned that. It just makes, it's like if you ever walked in a room somewhere and it just feels just dark and just musky, and it's a clean room and the lights are bright as fuck, but it's just the sensation of the room. Is it you causing it or someone else that's in there? Yeah. Being positive, and sometimes I slip, but there's like you'll hear me in my YouTube channel or right here on the podcast of saying I don't know where this is gonna go. Maybe it goes for maybe no. That's not being negative. That's being optimistic, and that's also being a realist. There's a difference between being positive and being real. You know, you can try to make something a reality that shouldn't be, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you also have to have that plan B emotional attack if that happens. And what I mean by emotional attack is you're attacking yourself because it didn't happen. It's like I did an internal job interview. It was my 17th one since I've worked here in the past 3 years. I've been here 8 years, and they tell you one thing and they don't do it. Oh, a manager or a recruiter reach out with feedback. No, you gotta track them motherfuckers down. And then you still don't get any feedback. And that used to bother the fuck out of me because I'm just like, man, because I'm all about integrity. It's just like, fuck, you say something, but you do something different. What the hell? one last time, and I made a podcast about it. I think I did part one and part two. And it was about recruiters and job interviews and shit. And I didn't go into it negatively. I went into it with realistic expectations. I didn't put a lot of hope into it. To me, I wanted to be a surprise, like, wow, okay, I actually got it. Okay. Because repetition of shit, I've never got the job. 17 interviews. 17. That's not including just my internal department. That's company wide. I did 5 internal and I never got the role. It took a long time for me to realize that just don't give a fuck. You know, anybody reaches out to me, man, John, I think you'd be good for this role, man. This just popped up, man. This rec came up. Won't you apply for it? I'm just gonna tell them, nah, I'm good. Like, man, well, why not? You don't think you get it? No, I don't think. I know. Well, how do you know? Well, look here. Let's just take an inventory. 17 interviews, and I don't get any other roles. 17 interviews, no feedback. That's HR saying when they send you that email that's generic as fuck, stating, you know, you were a good candidate, but they decided to go with someone else. We really wish you a good luck on your endeavors. You will have a recruiter or that manager reach out with feedback. Lying motherfucker? Nope. So I don't expect it. I mean, I can hunt them motherfuckers down and be like, hey, you know, you gonna give me some feedback? Because let me copy and paste what this is. What's that gonna do? It's not gonna make me feel better because I've done it before. It just makes things worse. So those of you out there that's struggling, and again, this series is gonna be, I don't know where I'm gonna put it at. I'm gonna keep it in comedy right now until I can kind of figure a few things out. But I wish, or I hope, that y'all are taking care of yourselves as much as you can. I don't want to say that things are going to get better because I don't know your situation. I don't even think this is, you know, it's not about, for me, it's not about getting better. It's about finding a way to make it better the best that you can and letting go of some shit. You know, I had to go back to my roots of taking care of just me and including my wife and my 5 dogs within that. I want to work hard for our needs. Wants are a luxury in life. And it fucking sucks sometimes. But until you get to that part where you can start realizing, because it still bothers me, but I'm working better at it. I do want to shop because I enjoy building cars. I love doing it. It's just, you know, everybody's got their stress reliever. Mine is that. That is my stress reliever. I love, to me, it's art. It's having a blank canvas and just turn it into something nice, you know, that I can sell to somebody or a tradesmate, something that they can enjoy it, that they don't have that skill set, but they want something. I want it to be where, hey, what do you want me to build you? That's what I wanted. I wanted a shop that would do everything. Not a shop that does some motherfucking maintenance, but a shop that builds something. I can't have that right now. I might not ever have that. I'll still hold on to that because one day I might, but I can't revolve the rest of my life on that. I look at my wife and I'm just like, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. And a lot of people say that, but believe me, when I say it for me, she's my godsend. She's younger than me, but she teaches me so much that I never had the opportunity to learn or even had the mindset to learn growing up. You know, she protects me emotionally. Listen to that. Protects me emotionally. What does that mean, guys? Let me tell you. I don't give a damn how I consider myself a pretty tough guy. I'm not saying the toughest guy in the world, but I'm pretty tough. I've I've been in the arena. You know, I've been through situations to where I'm just like, shit, I made it out of that motherfucker alive. but I also have emotions. I'm not saying break down and cry and shit and whatever. Just look inside yourself and be thankful, and not everybody has a, awesome life like I do, and I get that, and I understand. Or maybe you do. But just one day, just put your mindset in that and think of like you're an emotional person and you might have your emotions in check in your mind. But one day just open your eyes and just look around and just think about that for a minute. Think about your emotion. Think about, whatever it is to be able to bring that out. And then talk with your significant other or someone that you trust you feel on. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying just try it out and just ease your foot into it. Put the toe in the water and just be like, hey, now I just want to talk to you, man. I just think you're a good person that I can talk to that might be able to help me understand or actually make me feel better about something. And that's hard to do as a man. It is. Like I thought I was alone. But when you do that, and it's not about saying, well, I just don't think I can make it. It's not about that. It's just like saying, hey, and you don't have to pour your heart out. I got people that pour their heart out to me all the time. I'm that person that stands like in a line somewhere and people just start talking to me. Next thing you know, I know everything about them. And like the whole time I probably said, oh, wow. And they talk the whole rest of the time. And I'm a talker. And they're just like, I'm glad we had this talk. And I'm like, yeah, not a problem, man. you know, maybe they're thinking what I'm saying now, but just find that person and just be like, hey, you see my struggles and people see your struggles. You might not think so. Just people just sometimes either they don't want to get in your business or they don't want to upset you or they don't really know what mindset that you're in. Set that mood, set that place with somebody and just be like, here's my mindset. This is kind of where I'm at. You know what I'm going through. Or if you don't, I can give you a few details or whatever, but I just either need to vent or I just need to talk to somebody because it makes you feel better. Venting, I think, makes a lot of people feel better, but you got to have a time and place for that shit. But I'm just saying, don't pour your heart out. If you do, that's great. If you don't, just be like, look, I just got these things. It's just in my mind. I just got, I want to get back positive, or I want to be a positive person. And you start there and you build on it. I'm nowhere near where I want to be at. I might not ever be there. And that's not being negative. That's called reality. But I'm progressing and growing and learning how to be better mentally, emotionally, you know, then physically. If you want to go to a gym and add in that trifecta, there you go. Which we haven't been in the gym in a week, but between toothaches and me being lazy, we're going today though. It's chest and back day today. But you gotta get something there. Mental health is just people look at so many different things. And yeah, I did go to school for psychology and stuff like that. And I just look at it differently. It's just like I really have a bunch of opinions in one person that thinks that they're smarter than everybody else in the room. And even though what you are, why would you do that? If you were so smart, you'd be like, why would I belittle everybody in the room or think I'm better than them? You know, why would you do that? If you're so smart, oh, I don't really care. That's real smart. If you are smarter or you feel you're smarter than somebody, don't tell them. Bring them up as close to your level as much as possible. That's what I try to do. And there's people that have done that for me. You don't know everything. Nobody knows everything. It's like an IT. You got cocky people like, oh, I know everything. No, you don't, motherfucker. But as long as you believe that, whatever, you just kind of there's cocky and confidence. And yeah, I don't even think those are two words that you even know. You're on another level of fuckery or something. I don't know. But you also got to keep your emotions in check and guard your emotions. And that's my lesson that I'm learning now. I used to always help people out as at work. It's just anything I can do. And it's not basically a people pleaser because I don't like pleasing people, but I want you to grow. I like seeing you grow, not saying, hey, John helped me grow, but because nobody was there to help me grow in that aspect. If I know something, you're asking my help, I'm going to help you. Now if you take advantage, because there's a motherfucker that did take advantage of that and I had to cut him off. I'm just like, dude, I just showed you how to do this last week. You should be in training. If you don't know this shit, then you need to get retrained. I can't tell you how to fix every single thing, the exact same shit every single day. He got pissed off at me. I don't really give a flying fuck. you know First of all, he was higher up than me. How'd you get up there then? If you I mean, how the fuck do you not know your job? I mean, did they just say, hey, we need a dumbass to take? I mean, I can't be like that, but you get what I'm saying. you know if I need something, I know who I can reach out to. I do everything in my power to figure it out first and use up all my resources. And if I get to a point where it's just like I'm just stumped, and people know me, so when I reach out or I send something out for people to discuss and help me out with, they already know I've done everything I possibly could, because that's the kind of person that I've shown them that I am. Doesn't make me better than anybody else. It makes me resourceful, but it doesn't make me better than anybody else in my mind. Now, if I'm there and I'm being your mentor and helping you get to your spot, and then all of a sudden you're stepping on my face to get to that next level, and just like, yeah, I was able to do this all by myself, and it's just like, does it piss me off? Yeah, my wife knows it does. But then there's that little sick mind of mine. I'm like, yeah, motherfucker. Until that next problem comes up that you're not able to solve, you're gonna come to me, and I'll be like, well, you got there by yourself. How can I help you? I have no clue. That's how my response is gonna be. Is that an asshole response? Yeah, it is. But you put that energy out there, and you're gonna get it back, because Karma's a motherfucker, and she can be good to you, but she can be an evil bitch too. So this kind of went along as usual. The reason why this is long is because I'm just kind of going through some of the things on this next series. 12 episodes of me talking is going to be a lot of different things. Some of it's going to be some TikTok rants, motivational things. Still going to dive into kind of the stuff that I kind of went through as a child, that some that I've overcome, some that I haven't. I haven't even scratched the surface on that. And it seems like I'm inviting you into the John Crofton. I am, and I ain't. I don't want you to say I feel sorry for you, or I feel bad for you. I want you to be like, man, okay, this guy's navigating through some shit. And you hopefully can look at your stuff and say, hey, maybe I can take some pointers, or maybe there's something that you can offer me that I just don't know. So to me, it's helping each other out grow in life. And that's kind of how this series is, the TikTok stuff is because I see a bunch of dumb shit on there that it's just, I mean, it's like the guy about the kids, talking about my dogs aren't my kids. Yeah, they are, motherfucker. I mean, it's just stuff like that. Some of it might be some political stuff. I don't like being very political, because it's just, no politician is 100% good. Yeah, it's all about taking the best that you can with what you got to work with, or whatever. If you're trying to make the economy better, or you're trying to make lives better, I don't care which side of the aisle that it is. I don't care what your race is. I don't care what your gender is. If you make life for the average person great, I'm going to be there for you. I'm not going to vote, because I don't give a fuck about voting. But that's my political view. Do I agree with some shit? No. But if it doesn't affect me, I don't really give a fuck, because it doesn't affect me. I'm not at that rich level to where it's affecting my taxes or some dumb shit. I don't care. Even if I got there, I still don't give a shit, because I'm going to do I'm going to legally do what I'm legally supposed to do. Um, so there's just going to be a lot of things coming like that. More talking about my wife, because I love my wife to death. Um, more family things that I'm still trying to wrap my mind around. And again, I'll try to throw in some stuff that I'm learning. I'm trying to cut this. I usually have the same videos and audio here that I do on my YouTube channel, but I'm trying to separate the two. Again, it's part about learning. I need to make that more of learning how to do um, YouTube, and kind of stick with that, and show how I'm growing or how I'm not growing, or what I did wrong or what I did right. And it's all raw. This one, I want it to be more comedy when it can be, more just life lessons that I've learned, and just basically wanting to help when I can. Hopefully my voice can help somebody, or some of the things that I say someone can relate to, or just have a day of just like You know, man, I was having a shitty day, and then I listened to this podcast, and this guy was just, it was just something great. I just want some more positivity to come in. There's going to be negative because you can't have that without the positive, but being able to overcome the negativity is my point with that. Motivation, which is what I'm calling this episode, is finding motivation to be better for you, for your mental health, for your family, your loved ones, your spouse, your kids, whatever you got going on. You gotta work on you before you can work on everything else. Like the other thing is you gotta love yourself before you can love others. That's not always true because I didn't really love myself and I love my wife, you know, but she in part has helped me love myself more. Not everybody has that, but again, you gotta find and focus on things that you can control. If you focus on stuff that's out of your control, you're going to waste time and might miss an opportunity like I've done. I've missed a lot of opportunity because I was too concerned about shit that was out of my control. Now I'm drilling and focusing on what I can control, and things are getting better. They're not where I want to be at. They might ever be there, but it's going to be in a better place than I was before. So I just, I always say this, and I'm trying to say this more at the end of my podcast is I hope people are living well the best that you can. I hope, I have faith of that your health and everything is good and you're doing the best you can with what you got to work with. And y'all don't know me. I mean, you're probably gonna get to know me through these podcasts, but you know, I care about people. I care about life. And I just hope that we can all find a way to make things better with just communication and integrity. And it's hard, it's integrity. People think is like, oh, integrity is easy. No, it ain't. Integrity is a very hard thing. It's not that hard for me because I grew up with integrity because I didn't get that growing up. I had to learn what that word meant. I had to learn what that action was to be or to have integrity rather. I'm not perfect. I never will be perfect. I wouldn't want to be perfect. Life would be fucking boring. But what I can offer you is if I make a mistake and I don't realize that, someone can tell me, and you know what I'm going to do? Shit, you are so right. I shouldn't have done that. Or I should have done that better. Own up to your bullshit. Even if it's mentally for you. And it sounds stupid because you're just like, why should I do that? Because you're practicing to show integrity to other people. Same concept. If you got integrity for yourself, you'll show integrity to everybody else. And some people, you're going to have haters, man. Some people don't like you. They're just like, oh, you just think you're better than me. No, I'll just show you that I'm better than you. It's not thinking, it's doing because I'm showing my integrity of owning up to my shit. I'm not going to judge you because you're not able to do that. But you can't judge me for not doing that because I'm always going to do that. Working through that and helping to be more positive and to push the limits of that word or that phrase everybody says you can always put your mind to do whatever your mind that you're putting to it or however that phrase is going. You can achieve some things, but set reality in there as well. It's not saying don't get your hopes up, but set your expectations and align them with your goals. You might make it there. You could make it there, but there's a lot of roadblocks. There's a lot of paths, and you have to realize and think and strategize. Okay, this journey is going to be rough. Get your mental tools ready. And that's some of the things I'm going to talk to in some other podcasts is about mental tools. It's something I came up with. There might be some out there that came up with that. I don't care, but that's just what works for me. And I call them mental tools. Not mental tools for success or mental tools for this. It's just what I use to get by day. It works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's like anything else, like this podcast, like my YouTube channel. It's a work in progress. These things aren't really reality for me. This is just something that just I'm not saying it's just a hobby, but it's just something that I enjoy doing. And hopefully someone enjoys listening, and joining in, and I encourage people to say something, to enjoy something. It's not about the views. It's not about any of that crap. Because at the end of the day, none of that shit matters. I don't know you personally. I don't. You don't know me personally, but just what I provide for you. And that should be a lesson in itself. You never truly know somebody. Nobody's going to always let you all the way into you. You have to have that one part of you that's a backup of your emotions. It's built into all of us. Now, mine's very small because my wife just knows so much about me because I love her and I have faith in whatever she does because she's always there for me in every aspect of my life. So, again, thank you for listening. I will have this episode uploaded when I get a chance. And just reach out if you want to, or if you enjoy or you don't enjoy. Just do what you got to do. Again, it's Daily Dirty. Peace.